My story actually starts in marching band. I was there for 5 semesters, and one of my really good friends, who was also the drum major, was getting his PhD, and he was in the tech program, which is where they pair current MBA students with current PhD students and give them a patent from NC State. So this patent might not be the best patent. It might need a little bit of work in the science department, or it might not be marketable. People just don't want it on the shelves. So they have the PhD students work on the science, maybe tweak things, make it a little bit better, and then have the MBA students work on the marketability and work on the business side. So it was really exciting to see these things that I'm not a PhD candidate, I'm not an MBA student, but I could really learn a lot from these people. And having a really good friend who is in a PhD program, it was just a wealth of knowledge. So I actually started working for the company the summer before I graduated, and I was just a technician. I was taking PHs over and over. It wasn't super exciting, but I was learning so much because there were all these people from different disciplines kind of put together in a room, and they were just sharing knowledge all the time. So I finished up my degree in December and got brought on full time as a lab technician, which, I was kind of working away, doing titrations, pHs, really standard chemistry stuff. But what was really exciting is as we were growing, we really needed someone to step in as a leadership role, which I did. And then I eventually became a lab manager, which is where I am right now, but we didn't have this role before. There wasn't a lab manager role to fill, so I didn't know this is what you need to do to be a lab manager. I just kind of did what I thought needed to be done for the good of Tethis, and that so happened to fall into a lab manager role. And that's where my skills really lie. I know I'm not a chemist who can sit at a bench top all day, and I know I'm not the MBA who can go out and woo clients, but it was really exciting to know that my skill set that I just naturally have and that I acquired throughout my 4.5 years in school could really play into a lab manager role, helping Tethis to grow and helping me to grow, really. So there is no typical day for me. Being a startup, we're not really standard. It is 9 to 5, but we don't have a typical day ever. We do have kind of peaks and valleys, what we call them. So in the valleys, it's a little bit slower. We're either waiting on funding or waiting on customer feedback or waiting on something to come in, like a piece of equipment. But in those times, it's not like I'm hanging out not working. I'm usually setting up a lot of infrastructure. So I do a lot of the safety, a lot of the chemical inventory, making sure we've got everything ordered that we need for projects that are upcoming. We also do hiring. So when we're waiting for someone to get approved to be hired, we can kind of vet resumes, things like that. When there's a valley where it's a little crazy, we kind of run around with our hair on fire. So Tethis actually started with a patent for a starch citric acid mixture with some other chemicals that would create a superabsorbent. And the idea is that we could absorb ions or scalants, oil from water, really dirty water, and make it potable, ideally. So from all my nutrition, I learned a lot about shear and the bubbles in bread and starch, but in that context of bread and pancakes, I didn't really know about these superabsorbents cleaning dirty water. But we were speaking the same language, so when my friend was talking about like, oh, this is the patent, this is what we're doing, I was like, yeah, I know that because I learned about it in food chemistry in the food prep class. So it was really exciting knowing that I can take my nutrition degree and work on like a chemical manufacturing company. So Tethis is actually making this superabsorbent. So we were technically a chemical manufacturer, but it is biodegradable, it is food safe ingredients that you can just go back there. I wouldn't, but you could put starch in your mouth and eat it if you wanted to, just like you'd put in a pie or put in bread. So it's really exciting to work on something that has that food science and nutrition aspect, but is also really closely related to the chemical manufacturing field. So I think being in nutrition, it's maybe not 100% my nutrition degree that got me here, but that willingness to always want to learn something new. And nutrition's ever changing. You're not going to have the same thing 20 years from now that you have right now. So that constant learning and those intangible skills of working in groups, and we were required to take so much chemistry and microbiology and all those classes that at the time didn't seem relevant to nutrition, but right now working in a chemical lab, they're so relevant to me, and I really feel like those skills I learned in school in my 4.5 years really are helping me now. One thing I think I learned about myself after graduation is I'm more of a leader and less shy than I thought I was. When I started out at Tethis, I was a lab technician, and it was kind of crazy. We were all over the place. Obviously, being a startup, we didn't have a lot of direction day to day, but I really stepped in and took over that role of, here's what we're gonna do today, here's what we need to get done, guys, like divvied out tasks. And I really felt like it wasn't being pushed to be a leader, but it was just naturally coming out, and that's where my skill set was. Another thing is just communication and talking with vendors, talking with hazardous waste. I had no idea how to get rid of a 55-gallon drum of flammable waste. I was so afraid I was going to do something illegal because there are so many regulations to do with this, that I was on the phone with someone telling them, like, I have all this waste and I don't know what to do, and I don't know what steps I need, like I don't know anything. And after that phone call, one of the older guys here, our CTO, he told me, don't tell them you don't know, you know a lot of things. So that really kind of made me realize I may not know everything, but I was more confident in what I do know, and I could actually communicate with these vendors. One accomplishment that I'm really proud of is the lab right now. When we started being a startup, we didn't have our own space. So we actually worked in C&R, which is across the street from the food science building. We were borrowing lab space. We had a bench space about this big with 4 people trying to cram themselves in there. And we had a lockbox for our stuff so no one would steal our glassware. It's a little crazy, but right now we have a full-scale lab. It's nice enough for investors to go walk through. It's obviously not perfect, but all the tables back there, all the equipment, all the chemicals I've helped purchase and really determine how are we going to make this lab work, how's the structure going to look, where's the electrical, HVAC, water, all that stuff I had no idea how to do when we were working on this tiny lab bench space, but I've really helped design this lab, and I'm so proud how it looks and how professional it looks when we do have people come through. So some advice I would give to current students is just to get out there, do something. We see people come through here with resumes that, great, you went to NC State, you took a bunch of classes, what else did you do? What are you doing where you can gain intangible skills that can translate to another job? And also on top of that, how can you present that intangible skill as an asset to this current job? I don't want to work with someone who, great, you had a 4.0, but you have 0 communication skills. You have 0 drive to work with other people. It doesn't have to be that you were the president of the club you were in, but that's just that you were doing something. So you can take the experience of whatever you were doing, even if it wasn't in an explicit leadership role, but you can explain to me, someone who's trying to hire you, that I really did learn from this experience, and I really feel that even though I wasn't leading explicitly, I was performing leadership skills in this capacity, either a job or a club.